The first time Leo's name became a weapon in my family. His wife was standing on our front porch with mascara under her eyes and her little boy crying in the back seat of her car. She did not knock like a neighbor. She hit the door with the side of her fist until my mother ran from the kitchen with a dish towel still in her hand. When she opened it, Susan Blake looked past her, straight into our hallway, and said, "Tell your daughter married men do not become single just because she wants them." My sister Karina came out of her bedroom like she had been waiting for the performance to begin. She smiled. That was the first thing that scared me. My name is Erica Miller. Back then, I was 28, living with my mother and my younger sister in a quiet subdivision outside Tampa. The kind of place where everyone pretended not to watch each other while knowing exactly which trash can went out too late, which couple fought too loud, and which car did not belong in whose driveway. Leo Blake lived next door with Susan and their 6-year-old son, Mason. He was 34, good-looking in an easy, dangerous way, the kind of man who looked harmless because he smiled before he lied. I did not know that then. I only knew what everyone knew. He fixed his lawn every Saturday morning, coached Little League, opened doors for women at block parties, and made my sister act like a teenager every time he waved from across the driveway. Karina had been obsessed with him for months before the porch scene. She denied it, of course. She called it just noticing. She said every woman on the block noticed him. But I had seen how she changed when Leo was outside. She would suddenly need to check the mailbox, water one plant near the fence, or carry a trash bag that was almost empty just to pass him on the curb. My mother, Linda, saw it too. She kept warning Karina in that tired voice mothers use when they already know their child will not listen. Karina would roll her eyes and say, "Relax, Mom. I'm allowed to find somebody attractive." Attractive was not the problem. The problem was that Leo was married, and Karina liked impossible things more when someone told her no. When Susan came to our door that evening, the whole street went still. Mr. Callahan from across the road stopped pretending to trim his hedge. A woman walking her dog slowed down until the dog almost pulled her backward. Mason sat in the car, red-faced and confused, clutching a plastic dinosaur against the window. My mother tried to lower her voice. She told Susan to come inside if there was a problem. Susan laughed once, but there was no humor in it. The problem is already inside your house. Karina stepped beside my mother with her arms folded. She was wearing a tight red sweater, her hair curled, her mouth glossy, like she had dressed for a fight before the fight knew where to find her. I asked Susan what happened. I should have stayed quiet, but there was a child in the car and my mother's hands were shaking. Susan looked at me for the first time. "Ask your sister why my husband's jacket smelled like her perfume." Karina did not flinch. She said, "Maybe if you had been enough, he would not have looked at me." That sentence did not just hurt Susan. It changed the room. My mother gasped. I stepped between them because Susan moved forward so fast that for a second I thought she was going to grab Karina by the hair. Karina did not move back. She wanted the street to see that she was not afraid. That was not confidence. That was cruelty looking for witnesses. Susan pointed at her, then at me, then back at my mother. She said she had pictures, messages, dates, and a lawyer already waiting. Karina laughed again, but this time it was thinner. My mother kept saying there must be some misunderstanding, but nobody on that porch believed that anymore. When Susan finally left, Mason still crying in the car, my mother closed the door and leaned against it, like her body could hold the whole neighborhood outside. I looked at Karina and asked one question. "Did you have anything to do with their separation?" She lifted one shoulder. They were already miserable. That was the first lie I caught her telling without needing proof. For 2 weeks after that, our house felt infected. My mother stopped going to her morning walking group because 2 women had asked too many careful questions. I avoided the front yard. Karina somehow got bolder. She started leaving in the evenings with perfume strong enough to linger in the hallway. She started taking calls in the garage. She started smiling at her phone like the shame around us was only background noise. Then one night I heard her through the wall. "Stop being annoying, Leo. I said I'll meet you there." I froze with a basket of laundry in my arms. Not because I was surprised, because hearing his name in her mouth made the whole thing real, in a way Susan's screaming had not. Until then, part of me had still hoped Karina was exaggerating, provoking, playing some ugly game for attention. But that call was not gossip. That was a schedule. The next morning, I waited until my mother left for work and knocked on Karina's door. She was sitting on her bed, painting her toenails, her phone face down beside her like it was something alive. I asked if she was seeing Leo. She did not answer right away. She blew on her nails, slow and dramatic. Then she said, "Are you my sister or Susan's detective?" I told her there was a child involved. I told her Susan had come to our house in front of everyone. I told her if this got worse, Mom would be dragged into it too. Karina looked up then, and for the first time I saw anger under the performance. "You always do that," she said. "You act like the good one so everybody forgets you're just the boring one." It landed harder than I wanted it to. I had spent most of my life being the steady daughter. I paid bills on time. I kept documents in folders. I worked as a compliance assistant for a medical billing company, which meant my days were full of records, dates, approvals, denials, and people trying to hide mistakes behind clean language. I was not glamorous. I was not dramatic. I was useful. Karina knew exactly where to press. But that morning, her insult told me something more important than what she thought of me. She was not ashamed. She was territorial. A month later, Leo stopped hiding. Not completely. Not like a decent man who wanted to clean up his life before stepping into another one. He started appearing in small ways that could be explained if someone wanted to explain them. His truck would be parked 2 houses down instead of in our driveway. He would come by when my mother was making dinner and say he was there to talk about the yard fence. He would bring Mason over for 5 minutes so the boy could pet our old dog. Then somehow Karina would end up outside with them. By then, Susan had filed for divorce. Karina told everyone that meant she had been right all along. See, they were done before me. People love using paperwork to make sin look clean. Leo began coming to our house after dinner. At first, he stayed on the porch with Karina. Then he came inside. Then he was at our kitchen table, laughing with my mother, bringing pastries from a Cuban bakery, asking me about work like we were old friends and not standing in the smoke of a marriage he had helped burn. I kept my distance. That was easier when Karina was happy. It was harder when I started noticing things I did not want to notice. Leo never looked nervous when Susan's name came up. He looked annoyed, like Susan was a bill he did not want to pay. When Karina touched his arm in front of my mother, he smiled, but his eyes would drift for half a second toward the hallway, the window, the door, anywhere else. One night, when Karina went upstairs to change, Leo stayed in the kitchen with me while I rinsed plates. My mother had gone to bed. The house was too quiet for how close he stood. He said, "You're nothing like your sister." I kept washing the same plate. I said, "That is not always a compliment. It is from me." I turned off the water and looked at him. He smiled, soft and harmless. That was what made it dangerous. I told him Karina would not like him saying things like that. He leaned against the counter and lowered his voice. "Karina does not like anything she cannot control." That was the first time he made me feel like we shared a secret. I should have hated it. Instead, I remembered it. Their relationship lasted 5 months. It ended on a Thursday afternoon, with Karina slamming through our front door so hard the picture frame near the entry shook against the wall. She ran straight to her room, crying with the kind of rage that sounded more like injury than sadness. My mother followed her. I stayed in the hallway because Karina had started throwing things. Later that night, Mom came into the kitchen and told me Leo had broken up with her. He had said he needed peace. He had said the divorce was becoming uglier. He had said Karina was making everything harder. Karina did not accept it. For the next 3 weeks, she chased him like humiliation was proof of love. She called him from different numbers. She drove past his office. She waited outside the grocery store where she knew he stopped after work. She cried, apologized, cursed him, promised she would change, then threatened to call Susan and tell her things that would make the custody fight worse. That last part got my attention. I asked her what she meant. Karina wiped her face and said, "Nothing. Stay out of it." But nothing had started sounding like the place where all the dangerous things were kept. Then Leo called me. I did not even know he had my number saved. His voice was low, strained, careful. He said he was sorry to bother me, but he needed to talk about Karina. Not over the phone. In person. He said it was delicate. I almost said no. Then he said, "I am trying not to do something that will destroy her." That was the hook. He knew it. We met the next afternoon at a small restaurant downtown, bright enough to feel safe and busy enough to make a private conversation look normal. I wore jeans and a white blouse because I did not want to look like I had dressed for him. That embarrassed me, because thinking about how I looked meant he had already entered a part of my mind I had not invited him into. Leo stood when I arrived. He hugged me lightly, but his hand stayed at my back a second too long. I sat down quickly. He ordered coffee. I ordered iced tea I barely touched. He started with Karina. He showed me call logs, dozens of messages, missed calls at 2 a.m, then screenshots of texts where she begged him to come back, and then, 10 minutes later, told him she would make sure Susan took his son. I read those words twice. "You know she gets dramatic," I said, but my voice did not sound convinced. Leo looked tired, not broken, tired in a way that still managed to be attractive. "I can handle dramatic," he said. "I cannot handle dangerous." Then he showed me one more message. "If you think I was bad as your girlfriend, wait until you see me as your enemy." That was my sister's number, my sister's spelling, my sister's anger. The air changed around the table. Leo said he did not want to file a police report. He did not want a restraining order. He did not want to hurt my mother. He just wanted me to talk to Karina before she crossed a line nobody could uncross. I believed part of him. That was enough to make me stupid. I promised I would try. He reached across the table and touched my wrist. Just 2 fingers. Barely anything. Still, every nerve in my body noticed. "Thank you," he said. "I knew you would understand. You always seemed like the reasonable one." There it was again, the comparison. I should have seen the pattern. He was not complimenting me. He was separating me from my sister, one careful sentence at a time. After that lunch, I went home and talked to Karina. It went badly before I finished the first sentence. She was in the laundry room, folding clothes with jerky little movements, when I told her Leo had called me. Her hands stopped around one of his old t-shirts. I had no idea why she still had it. She asked, "Why is Leo calling you?" I told her he was worried. I told her the messages looked bad. I told her threatening his custody was not something she could take back. Karina's face changed, not because she felt guilty, because she understood he had shown me something she wanted hidden. She stepped closer and said, "Did he take you to lunch?" I said yes. Her eyes moved over my face, my hair, my blouse, like she was searching for evidence on my skin. Then she laughed. "Of course he did. You probably love that." I told her not to twist this. She threw the shirt into the basket and said, "Do not stand there acting pure, Erica. Men like Leo do not call women like you unless they need something." That was the sentence she wanted me to carry. And I did. For days, I carried it into work, into bed, into the shower, into every quiet space where my mind had nothing else to do but replay her voice. Men like Leo do not call women like you unless they need something. The worst part was not that she was cruel. The worst part was that I was afraid she might be right. Leo texted me that night asking how it went. I told him it did not help. He apologized, then asked if I was okay. I said I was fine. He said, "You always say that like you are not allowed to need anybody." I stared at the message too long. That was how the door opened. Not with passion, with attention. For 2 weeks, we texted almost every day. At first, it was about Karina. Then it was about my work, his custody schedule, my mother's blood pressure, Mason's school project, the neighbor who kept reporting everyone's trash bins. Normal things. Safe things. Except safe things become dangerous when they come from the wrong person at the right time. Leo remembered details. He asked how a meeting went. He noticed when I answered late. He sent me a picture of Mason's science project and said I was the only person he knew who would appreciate the labeling. I laughed before I realized I was smiling at my phone like Karina used to. That scared me enough to stop replying for one day. Then he called. I let it ring until it stopped. 10 seconds later, a message came through. I crossed a line, didn't I? I should have said yes. Instead, I wrote, "I just don't want trouble." His reply came almost instantly. "Neither do I, but talking to you is the only quiet part of my life right now." That was not love. That was bait shaped like loneliness. I met him again the following Saturday. I told myself it was only lunch. I told myself I was going because he still needed help handling Karina. I told myself a lot of things. The body can sit in a lie long before the mouth admits it. We chose a restaurant near the water, far enough from our neighborhood that no one would accidentally walk in. I noticed that choice and pretended I had not. He looked different that day, less tired, more focused. Like he had decided something before I arrived. Halfway through lunch, he stopped talking about Karina and started asking about me. Not the surface things, real questions. Why I never married. Why I stayed home. Why I let people treat my reliability like furniture. I laughed because it was too accurate. He did not laugh. He said, "I think you have spent your whole life being easy to overlook." I looked down at my plate. Then he said the line that should have made me leave. "I think I picked the wrong sister." My face went hot. I told him not to say that. He said he was sorry, but he did not look sorry. He looked relieved, like the words had finally escaped, and now it was my job to decide what to do with them. I asked him if he said things like that to Karina. "No," he said. "Karina wants to be wanted. You want to be seen." That was the first time I understood how dangerous a sentence could be when it found the exact empty place inside you. After lunch, we walked outside. The sky had turned gray, and the wind was pushing warm rain across the parking lot. I stood under the awning, waiting for it to slow down. Leo stood beside me, close enough that his sleeve brushed my arm. He said my name quietly. I looked at him. He kissed me before I could turn away. It was not long. It was not dramatic. It was worse than that. It felt calm, like something that had already happened somewhere in our minds and was only catching up with our bodies. When he pulled back, he looked scared for the first time since I had known him. "I'm sorry," he said. I believed him. That was the mistake that gave him room to continue. I went home shaking. Karina was in the living room, scrolling on her phone, eyes swollen from crying, but sharp enough to notice everything. She asked where I had been. I said I had run errands. She looked at my wet hair, then my shoes, then the purse still tight under my arm. "Errands make you nervous now?" I told her I was tired. She smiled without smiling. "You know what is funny? He is seeing someone." I can feel it. My throat closed. Karina sat up straighter. He thinks I do not know him, but I do. When Leo pulls away, it is because somebody else is feeding his ego. I said, maybe he just wanted space. She stared at me. No, there is a woman. Then she said something that made my hands go cold. And when I find her, I am not going to scream at her. I am going to make sure everybody she loves sees what kind of woman she is. The lie had already left my mouth before I understood the threat. I said, "You need to let him go." She laughed. "You sound just like him." That night, I did something I had never done with family before. I took screenshots of the messages Leo had sent me and forwarded them to an email account Karina did not know about. I told myself it was because I needed to protect myself if she accused me of something. But deep down, I knew the truth. I was not preparing to end it. I was preparing to survive it. The third time I saw Leo alone, I asked him about Susan. We were sitting in his truck outside a coffee shop, parked under a broken streetlight that flickered every few seconds. I had already told him we could not keep meeting like this. He had already told me he understood. Neither of us had moved to leave. I asked if Karina had really caused the separation. Leo rubbed both hands over his face. For Susan, it was the last straw, he said. That was not an answer. I asked again. He looked out through the windshield and said Susan had seen him with Karina one night, but it had been dark. She knew there was another woman, but she did not know exactly who at first. Later, she figured it out. Then Karina made everything worse by acting like she had won something. I felt sick. So you were still with Susan when it started? He did not deny it. He said, my marriage was dead. I said, dead marriages still have bodies in the house. He looked at me then, and for 1 second the charm dropped. Not all of it, just enough. You think I am proud of it? I did not answer. He took my hand and said he had made a mess. He said he was trying to do one thing right by not lying to me. He said Karina had been a mistake born out of a bad moment, but I was different. He said he did not want to hide me. That was when I should have asked why he had hidden so much before. Instead, I let him hold my hand. After that, the relationship crossed from wrong into real. That is the part people judge from a distance, like the right choice is always clean when your heart is dirty. I knew he had been with my sister. I knew Susan had been hurt. I knew Mason was stuck inside adults behaving like children with matches. I knew my mother would be devastated. And still, when Leo texted, my pulse changed. When he called, I answered. When he asked to see me, I found reasons to say yes. I hated myself in small pieces, then missed him in bigger ones. For a while, secrecy made everything sharper. We met in parking lots, quiet restaurants, one motel off the interstate where the woman at the desk did not look up long enough to remember our faces. Leo would touch my cheek, like I was something fragile he had finally been allowed to keep. He told me he wanted to take me to dinner in the open. He told me he was tired of acting like loving me was a crime. I wanted to believe the hiding was temporary. But temporary became a place we lived. Karina got worse. She stopped sleeping. She started checking Leo's social media every hour, then Susan's, then the pages of women who liked his posts. She asked me once if I knew how to make a fake account look real. I told her no. She said, "Of course not. You only know how to follow rules." One afternoon she came home with a printed photo. It was blurry, taken from across a street, but I recognized Leo's truck. A woman was getting into the passenger side. Her head was turned away. Her hair was hidden under the hood of a sweatshirt. It was me. My knees almost failed. Karina slapped the paper on the kitchen counter in front of my mother and said, "See? I told you. He has some cheap woman sneaking around with him." My mother picked up the picture and frowned. "Where did you get this?" "Does it matter?" "It matters if you are following him." Karina snatched it back. "He humiliated me. I am allowed to know who helped him do it." My mother told her that was enough. Karina screamed that nobody in the house cared about her. Then she turned to me. "You care, right, Erica?" I could feel the photo between us like a loaded gun. I said, "I think you are hurting yourself." Her eyes narrowed. "No," she said. "Someone is helping him hurt me, and when I find her, I'm going to make sure she loses more than I did." That was no longer heartbreak. That was a warning with my name missing from it. I called Leo from my car 10 minutes later. I told him Karina had a photo. I told him she was following him. I told him this needed to stop before somebody got hurt. He was quiet for too long. Then he said, "Do not panic." That made me panic. I asked him if he knew she had been following him. He said he suspected it. I asked why he had not told me. He said he did not want to scare me away. That was the first crack in the version of him I had been choosing to believe, because protecting someone by hiding risk is still using their ignorance. He told me we needed to take control of the story before Karina did. He said we should tell my mother first, then Karina, then Susan if we had to. He said he would be there. He would not let me face it alone. I wanted that to be true so badly that I agreed to meet him the next day and make a plan. But the next morning, before I could leave for work, my mother called my name from the kitchen. Her voice sounded wrong. Karina was standing at the table in her pajamas, holding my phone. I had left it charging by the coffee maker for less than 5 minutes. The screen was unlocked. Leo's message was open. "I am tired of hiding you. After tomorrow, everyone knows." Nobody spoke. The refrigerator hummed. A car passed outside. My mother stared at the screen like the words were arranging themselves into something she could survive. Karina looked at me. For once, she was not crying. She was smiling. Very slowly, she placed my phone on the table and said, "So, it was you." Then another phone buzzed. Karina looked down at hers. I heard the sound again from my mother's phone, then mine. 3 phones, same message, same unknown number. A photo opened on my screen. It was Leo and me leaving the motel. Under it, one sentence. "Ask Leo what he promised Karina the night he gave her your name." For a few seconds, nobody in that kitchen moved. The photo on my phone was clear enough to ruin me and blurry enough to make me feel dirty. Leo's hand was on my lower back. My hair was tucked behind one ear. The motel sign was behind us, half lit in the morning sun, like even the building knew what kind of proof it had become. My mother sat down slowly. Karina did not sit. She stood across from me with my phone between us, her eyes bright and dry. Dry was worse. When Karina cried, she wanted pity. When Karina smiled, she wanted blood. She picked up my phone and read the message out loud. "Ask Leo what he promised Karina the night he gave her your name." My mother looked at me like she was waiting for me to say this was not what it looked like. But it was worse than what it looked like. I asked Karina what that meant. She laughed once, soft and ugly. "You really do not know." That was the moment the room stopped being my mother's kitchen and became a trap. I reached for my phone, but Karina pulled it back. "No," she said. "You do not get to erase things now." I was not going to erase it. Funny, that is what liars always say after they get caught. My mother finally spoke. Her voice was quiet, but it cut through both of us. "Erica, is this real?" I could not lie to her, not after everything else. "Yes." The word sounded too small for what it destroyed. My mother covered her mouth with one hand. Karina stared at me like she had been waiting her whole life to see me become smaller. "How long?" she asked. I said nothing. How long, Erica? I looked at the table. Karina slammed my phone down hard enough to make my mother flinch. Say it. A few months. She laughed again, but this time there was pain under it. A few months. You sat in this house listening to me cry over him while you were meeting him in cheap hotels. I said her name, but she stepped back like I had touched her. Do not, she said. Do not say my name like you still have the right. I deserved part of that. That was the cruelest part. When someone you betrayed attacks you, the truth in their anger becomes the rope they use to hang you with. But the message kept pulling at me. Ask Leo what he promised Karina the night he gave her your name. Not the night she found out. The night he gave her your name. That one word changed everything. I asked Karina if Leo told her about me. Her face twitched. Barely. But I saw it. My mother saw it too. Karina folded her arms. Why don't you ask your boyfriend? I called Leo right there. He did not answer. I called again. Straight to voicemail. Karina smiled wider. That is new. He always answers you, right? I grabbed my keys from the counter. My mother stood. Where are you going? To get the truth. Karina moved toward the door. I'm coming. No. Yes, she said. You do not get to steal my humiliation and then keep the ending private. I wanted to scream at her. I wanted to tell her she had no moral throne to sit on after what she did to Susan. But then my mother's face stopped me. She looked 10 years older in one morning, and I understood something sickening. Leo had not only walked into my family, he had learned where every crack was, then waited for the house to split itself open. I drove to his apartment with Karina in the passenger seat and my mother in the back because she refused to let us go alone. Nobody spoke for the first 10 minutes. The whole car felt like a courtroom without a judge. My phone buzzed halfway there. Unknown number again. This time there was no photo. Just a message. He is not at his apartment. Then another one. He is at Susan's lawyer's office. My hands tightened on the wheel. Karina leaned over before I could hide the screen. She read it and went still. What lawyer? I did not answer because I did not know. Then the third message came, and this one made the whole road tilt under me. He is giving them both of you. I pulled into the nearest gas station so fast the tires scraped the curb. My mother asked what happened. I handed her the phone. Karina took it from her. For the first time that morning, she looked scared. Not angry, not dramatic. Scared. She said, "No, just that. No." I looked at her. "What did you do?" Karina shook her head. "I did not do anything." "What did you do?" She snapped then. "I said I did not do anything." But her voice cracked on anything. That crack told me there was a story under the denial. I told her if she knew something, she needed to say it now. She stared through the windshield at nothing, her jaw shaking. My mother leaned forward from the back seat and said her name in a voice I had not heard since we were children. Karina closed her eyes. Then she said, "He told me he still loved me." My stomach dropped. She said it quietly, like she hated every word for being alive. The night after I found out it was you, he came to see me. I had followed him. I saw you getting into his truck, but I did not know it was you until he told me. I could not breathe. He gave you my name? Karina looked at me then. Her eyes were wet now. Yes. The answer hit harder than any scream. Leo had not been caught. He had confessed my name like a move. Karina said he came to her apartment parking lot after midnight. He said he was sorry. He said he had been confused. He said I had been comforting him when she was pressuring him. He said I had taken advantage of his loneliness. My mother whispered, "Erica." I shook my head, but the car felt too small to defend myself inside it. Karina kept talking. He said he needed me not to explode yet. He said Susan's attorney was digging into everything. He said if Susan could prove he had been cheating during the marriage, it could hurt him in the divorce and custody fight. I looked at her, and something cold began to form behind my ribs. What did he promise you? Karina wiped under one eye with the back of her hand. He said if I helped him keep the timeline clean, he would come back to me after the divorce was settled. My mother made a sound like something broke inside her. Karina stared down at the phone. He said you were temporary. He said you were useful because you looked innocent. That was not heartbreak anymore. That was evidence. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. There are sentences that do not wound you immediately. They walk into your body and turn the lights off one by one. You were useful because you looked innocent. That was when I understood Leo had not chosen the wrong sister. He had chosen the right tools. Karina had been the chaos. I had been the alibi. Susan had been the woman he needed to discredit. And Mason had been the prize he wanted to protect, while he kept setting fires around every woman close enough to burn. I asked Karina if she had sent the photos. She shook her head. No, I wanted to. I swear I wanted to, but I didn't. Then who did? My phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. Ask Susan why she waited. Karina and I stared at each other. Then I did the one thing I should have done months earlier. I called Susan. She answered on the second ring. For a moment, neither of us spoke. I could hear traffic behind her, a car door closing, then her breathing. When I said her name, she said, I wondered how long it would take. Her voice was not angry. That was worse. I told her I had received the messages. I asked if she sent them. Yes. Karina leaned closer, listening. Susan said she had not wanted to involve me at first. She thought I was just another woman Leo had lied to. Then she found out I was Karina's sister. Then she found out Leo had started using my name in statements to his lawyer, making it sound like I had pursued him, like Karina had become unstable because of me, like Susan had exaggerated everything out of jealousy. I closed my eyes. He was not hiding from consequences. He was assigning them. Susan said, he is in a settlement meeting right now. He is trying to present himself as the stable parent surrounded by unstable women. Me, your sister, now you. Karina whispered, that son of a... My mother said, language. But even she sounded like she barely believed in rules anymore. Susan continued, I sent the photos because you needed to know before he used you officially. I also sent them because I need you to tell the truth. I asked what truth. The timeline, the messages, the lunches, the fact that he contacted you first, the fact that he asked you to control your sister. Karina looked away. Susan's voice hardened for the first time. And I need your sister to tell the truth too. Karina laughed bitterly. Oh, now she needs me. Susan heard her. No, Susan said. My son needs adults to stop letting Leo decide which woman gets blamed next. That sentence shut the whole car down, because none of us had a clean pair of hands. Not Karina, not me, not Susan maybe, in whatever private history she and Leo had lived before we entered it. But Leo had done something none of us had fully understood. He had made each of us think the other woman was the enemy, while he stayed in the middle collecting sympathy, control, and silence. Susan told us to come to the law office. Karina said no immediately. My mother said yes before I could. I looked back at her. She was crying, but her voice was steady. We are already in it. We might as well stop crawling. The law office was in a glass building downtown, the kind of place that made every problem feel expensive before anyone opened their mouth. My hands were shaking so badly in the elevator that I had to hold them together. Karina stood beside me, arms crossed, face pale. My mother kept smoothing her blouse, like respectability could protect us from what we were about to walk into. When the elevator doors opened, Susan was waiting near reception. She looked different from the woman who had screamed on our porch. Her hair was pulled back. Her makeup was simple. Her eyes looked tired, but not broken. She looked at Karina first. Karina looked at the floor. For 1 second, I thought Susan would attack her. I almost would not have blamed her. Instead, Susan said, "Save the apology for when it cost you something." Karina flinched. That was the first punishment. Not screaming, not insults. Just one sentence that found the exact place shame had been hiding. Susan led us into a small conference room. Her attorney, a sharp woman named Ms. Grant, was already there with a laptop open and a yellow legal pad in front of her. She looked at us the way professionals look at a mess they expected, but still dislike. Ms. Grant explained quickly. Leo was in a separate room with his attorney. They were negotiating custody, financial terms, and statements regarding misconduct during the marriage. Leo's position was that Susan had become irrationally jealous, that Karina had pursued him after the separation, and that I had later inserted myself into his life, creating family drama he had tried to avoid. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because the lie was so calm it sounded rehearsed by a man who had slept well. Ms. Grant said Leo had provided selected screenshots. Carefully selected. Messages from Karina threatening him. Messages from me saying I did not want trouble. Nothing before that. Nothing showing he had contacted me first. Nothing showing he had encouraged secrecy. Nothing showing he had used both of us. Karina whispered, "He cut the messages." Ms. Grant nodded. Men like him usually do. Susan glanced at me. "Do you have yours?" I thought about the email account, the screenshots I had forwarded the night Karina showed me the photo, the call logs, the texts, Leo's message saying he was tired of hiding me, the first lunch, the message where he said talking to me was the only quiet part of his life. For the first time that day, I felt something besides shame. I felt useful in a way Leo had not planned. I opened my email. Everything was there. Ms. Grant turned the laptop toward me and said, "Send them." I did. Karina hesitated when Ms. Grant asked for her phone. Then Susan looked at her and said, "You helped him hurt me once. Do not help him raise my son with the same lies." Karina handed over the phone. That was when Leo made his first mistake in front of witnesses. He walked past the glass wall of our conference room on his way to the restroom. He saw Susan first, then me, then Karina. His face changed so fast I almost missed the real version underneath. The charm vanished. The warmth vanished. What appeared was not guilt. It was calculation trying to find a door. He stopped. Susan did not move. Karina whispered, "Look at him." He opened the conference room door without knocking. "What is this?" he asked. Ms. Grant stood. "Mr. Blake, you need to return to your room." His eyes stayed on me. "Erica, what are you doing here?" The way he said my name almost worked. Almost. I heard every late-night message in that voice. Every soft compliment. Every apology that had never changed anything. Every moment he had made me feel chosen, while he positioned me to be blamed. I said, "You gave Karina my name." His jaw tightened. Karina stepped forward. "You told me she was temporary." Leo looked at her like she had spoken out of turn. That look told everyone more than any confession could. He said, "This is not the place." Susan laughed once. "That is interesting. You had no problem making every other place the place." Ms. Grant told him again to leave. Leo lowered his voice. "Erica, please. You do not understand what is happening." That was the line that finally broke something open in me. For months, he had survived by making women doubt what they saw. Susan had been jealous. Karina had been unstable. I had been innocent, then useful, then probably crazy if needed. So I looked at him and said, I understand enough. His expression hardened. Do you? He said. Because if you think this makes you look good, you are wrong. There he was. No soft voice, no wounded man, no tired father, just the threat under the charm. My mother stepped into the doorway. Do not speak to my daughter like that. Leo looked at her, and for half a second I saw irritation flash across his face. He had charmed my mother too, but now she was no longer useful as a kitchen audience. He said, Linda, you have no idea what your daughters have done. My mother's face went still. Then she said, I know what they did. I am trying to find out what you built with it. That was the first time I saw Leo lose control of the room. Not all at once, just a little. But enough. His attorney appeared behind him, nervous and whispering his name. Ms. Grant said if he remained there, she would consider the interaction relevant to the record. Leo looked at each of us one more time. His eyes landed on me last. They are using you, he said. I almost smiled, because that sentence had no power anymore. The man who had used every woman in that hallway was warning me about being used. That was when the lie stopped protecting him. The next hour moved fast. Ms. Grant gathered our screenshots, call logs, and the messages Leo had sent Karina after supposedly ending their relationship. Karina had more than I expected. Voice notes, late-night apologies. A message from Leo saying, just keep the timeline simple until this is over. Another one saying, Erica does not need to be part of the real story. I stared at that one for a long time. The real story. All those months I had thought I was trapped in a secret romance. I was trapped in paperwork. Leo had been building a version of events where every woman around him could be explained away as emotional, jealous, obsessive, or inappropriate. Susan was the bitter wife. Karina was the unstable ex. I was the naive sister who crossed a line. He did not need to be innocent. He only needed all of us to look worse. Ms. Grant sent the documents to Leo's attorney. Then we waited. That waiting room became one of the strangest places I have ever sat. Susan on one side, Karina on the other. My mother between us like a tired referee in a war none of us could win cleanly. Karina kept looking at Susan. Finally, she said, I am sorry. Susan did not look at her. Karina swallowed. I know that does not fix anything. No, Susan said. It does not. Karina nodded, eyes filling again. Then Susan turned slightly. But tell the truth today and maybe it stops getting worse. That was all she gave her. It was more than Karina deserved. It was also exactly enough. 40 minutes later, Leo's attorney requested a break in the settlement discussion. Ms. Grant returned to our room with an expression so controlled I could not read it. Then she said, His position has changed. Susan closed her eyes, not in relief, in exhaustion. Ms. Grant explained that Leo was no longer pushing the claim that Susan's accusations were irrational. He was no longer using Karina's messages as the center of his argument. He was no longer naming me as a destabilizing influence. He had backed away from the story because the story now had receipts. Karina whispered, So he is just going to get away with it? Ms. Grant looked at her. Family court is not a punishment machine, but losing control of the narrative matters. Susan added, He wanted me to look crazy in order to take more from me. Then she looked at the closed door down the hall. He does not get that now. That should have been enough. It was not, because Leo still had one more move. That evening, before we even got home, a post appeared online. It came from a fake account, but it spread through our neighborhood group before anyone could stop it. The post did not name all of us, but it did not need to. It said a local woman had been secretly sleeping with her sister's ex while pretending to help him. It said a family had been destroyed by two sisters with no shame. It said Susan had been right all along, but for the wrong reason. Under it was the motel photo. Karina saw it first. She screamed my name from the living room. By the time I reached her, my mother was already holding her chest, not from a heart attack, but from humiliation so sharp it looked physical. Neighbors were commenting. Not many yet, but enough. Some asked if it was true. Some used laughing emojis. One woman wrote, "I always knew something was off in that house." That comment did something to me. Not because I deserved kindness. I knew I had done wrong, but because Leo had turned one secret into a public feeding. He could not win legally, so he tried to win socially. That was his second mistake, because public shame has one weakness. It creates public witnesses. I called Susan. She had already seen it. Her voice was cold. "He posted it." I asked how she knew. Because that photo was one of the ones I took. I only sent it to you, your sister, and my attorney. The version online has a crop I never sent you. I did not understand. She said, "There was another person in the original frame." My stomach tightened. "Who?" Susan paused. "Mason." I sat down. "What?" "He was in my car across the street when I took it. He was asleep in the back seat. I cropped him out before I sent it to you." My mind moved slowly, then all at once. If the online photo had been cropped from the original, and Susan had not posted it, then Leo had somehow gotten access to the version that showed his son. Ms. Grant had sent documents to Leo's attorney. Leo had seen the evidence. He had taken something from the legal exchange and weaponized it online. Susan said, "He just used material from a custody negotiation to humiliate you." That was not just cruel. That was stupid. We met Susan and Ms. Grant the next morning. This time I did not shake in the elevator. I was still ashamed. I still hated what I had done. But shame had stopped being a fog and become a blade. I knew where to point it now. Ms. Grant filed an emergency notice about the online post, the misuse of sensitive material, and the harassment. She also contacted the administrator of the neighborhood group, who happened to be Mr. Callahan's daughter-in-law. Within 2 hours, the post was removed. Within 4, screenshots of the post, comments, fake account, timestamps, and cropped image comparison were in Ms. Grant's file. Karina helped. She did not complain. She did not dramatize. She sat with my laptop and collected every screenshot from every person who had shared it. When one woman messaged her privately to ask if I was really that kind of sister, Karina replied, "Leo Blake posted revenge material from a legal case. Send me your screenshot." I looked at her when she said it. She did not look proud. She looked awake. That afternoon, Leo called me 11 times. I did not answer. Then he texted, "You have no idea what Susan is doing." I screenshotted it, then another. "She is turning you against me." Screenshot. Then another. "After everything between us, you are really going to help them destroy me?" Screenshot. Then the mask slipped completely. "You think people are judging you now? Keep pushing." I stared at that message until my hands stopped shaking. Then I forwarded it to Ms. Grant. That was the first time I did not reply to Leo. That silence was not weakness anymore. It was documentation. 2 days later, there was an emergency custody hearing. I was not supposed to speak unless called. Karina and I sat in the hallway outside the courtroom with my mother between us. Susan was inside with Ms. Grant. Leo arrived wearing a navy suit and the same soft, tired expression he used the day he took me to lunch. He saw me. For 1 second, his face changed. Not enough for strangers to notice. Enough for me. He walked over and said quietly, "This has gone too far." Karina stood before I could. "No," she said. "You just lost the remote." He looked at her with disgust. "Karina, not now." She smiled, but this time it was not cruel. It was almost sad. That's the thing, Leo. It is now. He leaned closer. You should remember what you sent me. Karina did not move. I do, she said. And I also remember what you sent back. His mouth shut. That was the first visible crack. When the hearing began, I watched Susan walk in with a folder so thick it looked like a life had been printed and stacked. Leo sat across from her. His attorney whispered to him. Leo kept his eyes forward. The judge heard about the online post, the cropped photo, the threatening text, the messages showing Leo had contacted me first, the messages to Karina about keeping the timeline simple, the way he had tried to use the women around him as proof of his own stability while provoking every part of the chaos. Nobody yelled. That made it worse for him. Leo was built for emotional rooms. He knew how to comfort, seduce, provoke, deny, and soften. But in that courtroom, charm had nowhere to land. Dates mattered, timestamps mattered, screenshots mattered, sequence mattered. The same kind of records I had spent years handling at work now sat between him and the lie he wanted to live inside. At one point, his attorney tried to suggest the online post could not be directly tied to him. Ms. Grant read his text out loud. You think people are judging you now? Keep pushing. Leo looked down. That was not a confession. It was better. It was pattern. The judge did not take Mason away from him completely. Life rarely gives endings that clean, but the temporary custody terms changed. Communication had to go through a parenting app. Leo was ordered not to discuss the case online or through third parties. The court warned him about harassment and misuse of case material. Susan got stronger protections, clearer boundaries, and the one thing Leo had fought hardest to keep from her: credibility. When we stepped into the hallway afterward, Susan did not celebrate. She leaned against the wall and cried silently into one hand. Karina stood near her, awkward and pale. Then she said, I am sorry about Mason. Susan wiped her face and looked at her. Karina added, I did not think about him. I thought about winning. Susan stared at her for a long moment. Then she said, that is exactly what Leo counted on. Karina nodded. No forgiveness came, no hug, no neat sisterhood born out of mutual damage. Just truth standing there between women who had all paid different prices for the same man's lies. That was enough. The fallout at home was slower and uglier. My mother did not scream at me. That would have been easier. For days, she moved around the house with a quiet disappointment that made every room feel smaller. She still made coffee, still asked if I had eaten, still folded towels. But she looked at me differently. One night, I found her sitting alone at the kitchen table with the porch light off. I sat across from her and said I was sorry. She nodded. I said it again because the first one sounded too small. She looked at me then. You hurt your sister, she said. I know. You helped hurt a woman who had already been humiliated. I know. You let a man bring division into this house and you hid behind fear, like fear made it less wrong. That one split me open. I said, I know. My mother's eyes filled. I raised you to be better than careful, Erica. Careful is not the same as good. I cried then. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough that I could not pretend I was composed. She did not reach for me immediately. That was part of the consequence. After a while, she placed her hand over mine. I love you, she said. But I am disappointed in you. Nobody had ever said anything more painful to me with more love. Karina and I did not repair quickly. For weeks, we lived like two people sharing a damaged bridge and testing every board before stepping. Sometimes she hated me. Sometimes I hated her. Sometimes we both hated Leo so much that it gave us something close to peace. She admitted things in pieces. She admitted she had known Leo was still emotionally tangled with Susan when she first got involved. She admitted she liked that he chose her. She admitted that when Susan came to our porch, part of her felt powerful. Then she said something I never forgot. I thought if I was the woman a man destroyed his life for, that meant I mattered. I did not know what to say, because my version was not that different. I had thought if I was the woman he became soft for, that meant I was seen. Both of us had mistaken being selected for being loved. Leo tried to contact me for another month. Different numbers, emails. Once, a letter left under my windshield wiper at work. I did not read it. I gave it to Ms. Grant. Karina did the same when he sent her a long message saying he had been confused, broken, pressured, manipulated by Susan, misunderstood by me, and still cared about her in ways he could not explain. She sent one reply before blocking him. It was only 4 words. Keep the timeline simple. Then she screenshotted it and cried for an hour. Not because she wanted him back, because finally seeing the game did not erase the part of her that had once wanted to win it. The neighborhood did what neighborhoods do. It fed on us, then got hungry for something else. For a while, I could feel eyes on me when I took out the trash. The woman who wrote that comment about our house avoided looking at me for 2 weeks. Then her husband got caught yelling at a teenager over a parking space, and everyone moved on. Public shame feels permanent when it starts. Most people are too busy with their own rot to hold yours forever, but the story did not truly end until 3 months later. Susan invited my mother, Karina, and me to a small birthday gathering for Mason at a park. I almost did not go. It felt wrong, too soon, too generous, too strange. My mother said, if she invited us, we go respectfully. So we went. Mason ran around with other kids, laughing, frosting on his chin, completely unaware of how many adults had nearly turned his childhood into a battlefield. Susan looked tired, but lighter. Karina brought a gift, a Lego set, and handed it to Susan instead of directly to Mason. Susan accepted it. That was all. Later, while the kids played, Susan and I stood near a picnic table. For a while, we watched Mason try to hit a piñata while blindfolded and spinning in the wrong direction. I said, I am sorry. Susan kept watching her son. I know. I should have said it sooner. Yes. There was no softness in that answer, but there was no performance either. Then she looked at me. I do not forgive you because you cried in a hallway or sent screenshots when you had no better option, she said. I am not there yet. I nodded. But you told the truth when lying would have protected you from some of it. That matters. It was not absolution. It was a receipt for the first decent thing I had done after a chain of wrong ones. I accepted it like it was more than I deserved. Near the end of the party, Leo arrived. He was allowed to attend under the new arrangement, but only for a limited time, and communication had to stay focused on Mason. He stepped into the park holding a gift bag, wearing sunglasses, looking like a man trying to seem unbothered in front of witnesses. The conversation around the picnic tables quieted. That was the punishment nobody had to announce. People knew now. Not everything. Not every detail. But enough. Enough that his smile did not work the same way. Enough that the mothers who once laughed too warmly at his jokes turned back toward their children. Enough that Mr. Callahan, who had watched the first porch fight like entertainment, looked away from Leo like the show had finally embarrassed him. Leo hugged Mason and gave him the gift. Then he looked across the park at me. For a second I saw the old invitation in his face, the soft regret, the look that once made me feel like I was the only person who understood him. It did nothing. That was how I knew I was free. Not healed, not proud, not clean. Free. Karina came to stand beside me. She did not look at him directly. He looked smaller, she said. I said, maybe he always was. She gave a small laugh. Then Susan walked past us carrying a tray of cupcakes. She paused near Karina and said, only take one. They are for the kids. Karina blinked, then laughed for real. It was the first honest laugh I had heard from her in months. A few minutes later, Leo tried to approach Susan near the picnic table. I could not hear everything, but I saw his posture. Slight lean, soft voice, the old performance. Susan listened for maybe 5 seconds. Then she said loudly enough for the nearest adults to hear, "Use the parenting app, Leo." A few heads turned. Leo's face tightened. Susan did not raise her voice. She did not insult him. She did not tremble. She just repeated, "Use the parenting app." That was the reversal. Not a courtroom speech, not a dramatic exposure. Just a woman refusing to be pulled into the private fog where he was strongest. Leo stepped back. And for the first time since I had known him, he had nothing to say. On the way home, my mother drove. Karina sat in the front seat. I sat in the back, watching the park disappear through the rear window. Karina was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "When Susan came to our porch, I told her if she had been enough, he would not have looked at me." My mother kept her eyes on the road. Karina swallowed. I think about that all the time now. I did too. That sentence had started everything publicly. It was the phrase that made the neighborhood stop and watch. It was the cruelty Karina had thrown like a trophy, before any of us understood that Leo made women compete for a prize that was already broken. Months later, Susan sold the house next door. Leo fought it at first because his name had still been tied to certain financial obligations from the divorce settlement. That part got complicated. Legal things always do. But Susan's attorney handled it, and eventually the sign went up. For sale. Then sold. The day the moving truck came, my mother baked banana bread and asked if I thought it would be strange to bring some over. I said yes. She brought it anyway. Karina went with her. I watched from our porch as Susan opened the door. The three of them stood there awkwardly, women connected by damage none of them would have chosen. Susan accepted the bread. Karina said something I could not hear. Susan nodded. Then Mason ran out holding his dinosaur and waved at our dog through the fence. For some reason, that was the part that made me cry. Not the affair, not the messages, not the courtroom, not Leo losing his clean story. A little boy waving goodbye to a dog, leaving a street where adults had made everything harder than it had to be. When Susan walked toward her car, she saw me on the porch. I lifted my hand. She lifted hers back. That was all. It was not friendship. It was not forgiveness. It was the smallest possible proof that the worst thing we had done did not have to be the last thing said about us. Karina moved out 6 months later. Not because of the scandal. Not exactly. She said she needed to learn who she was when she was not trying to be wanted by someone else's man. She rented a small apartment 20 minutes away and got a job at a salon where nobody knew Leo's name. Our relationship is still not what it was. Maybe it never will be. But sometimes she calls me on Sunday mornings and tells me ordinary things. A rude client, a new recipe, a show she is watching. Nothing dramatic, nothing sharp. I have learned to love ordinary. As for Leo, I heard he moved to another part of Tampa after the divorce settled. Someone told my mother he was dating a woman from his gym. Someone else said Susan had gone back to school. Karina said she did not want updates. I said the same. For once, we both meant it. I still think about the sentence Leo sent me before everything exploded. I am tired of hiding you. After tomorrow, everyone knows. At the time, I thought it meant he was choosing me. Now I know he was choosing a stage. He wanted everyone to know, but only after he had arranged the story so every woman looked guilty except him. That was his gift. He could make shame feel personal when it was actually part of his design. But designs fail when the people inside them start comparing notes. I paid for what I did. I lost my mother's easy trust. I damaged my sister. I helped wound a woman who had already been betrayed. I cannot make any of that sound noble, but I can tell the truth now. Leo did not destroy us because he was irresistible. He almost destroyed us because each of us had a private hunger he knew how to feed. Karina wanted to be chosen. Susan wanted to protect her son without looking bitter. I wanted to be seen. And Leo wanted all of us divided enough to never look at him at the same time. That was his final mistake. Because when we finally did, he became exactly what he had tried to make us. Exposed. What would you do in this situation? Be honest. Or did this remind you of someone? Tell me in the comments. And if this made you think about your own relationship, I left something in the description that can help you build something stronger. Subscribe if you want more stories like this every day, and share this with someone who needs to hear this story.